It's round 2 of the 2025 World Superbike Championship, and we move away. 5 weeks ago we were in Australia, and here and now we're at the Algarve International Circuit in Portimao for the Portuguese round here for the Superbikes. And we're underway for the second free practice session, a very critical 45 minutes ahead of us as the riders begin to head out onto the circuit. This session will be key in order to give us the prime example of what we're going to see here this weekend. It's not a critical session as like it is in MotoGP. It's still another 45 minutes for the riders to head out there and get their news, views and opinions all sorted out. But this is going to be rather entertaining session as the riders will make their way out, and we're still waiting for the rider tracker to be operational, but they'll venture out one at a time. So front tyres, the SC1 and the SC2 of the Pirelli compound. Rear tyre, SCO and SC1. The development tyre is the SCO. 6 left-hand turns, 9 to the right, total of 15. 2.853 miles, that's over 4 kilometres in distance as well. Pit lane's open, and we're getting ready for get going. Let's say hello and good afternoon to that on board with the TNT team.
Temperatures we have is now 35 degrees here, track temperature in the south of Portugal. Nicolo Buliga. Talk about revitalising a motorcycle racing career. I mean, many people had written him off, hadn't they, when he went up from Moto3, was the junior world champion 10 years ago, with 3 wins that season, but super consistency, podium after podium after podium. Moto3, Moto2 didn't work out, fell out with his previous management, made the brave decision to walk away from the VR46 Academy, and looking good for challenging now for the Superbike world title. Can he take it away from that man there? 54 last year for Toprak, #1 this year, and we checked, didn't we, with the FIM?
You checked.
With the FIM and Dorna earlier on this afternoon. He's actually coming back into the pits after trekking the bike there for one lap.
No.
But you cannot change your number during this season, and we know Toprak is very superstitious, and we were even speculating over our lunch, weren't we? Could he even go back to the 54 this year? Well, Toprak, you're stuck with the #1. You wouldn't ever think you'd say someone, what's going on with Domi Agata's bike there?
Looked like a weaving down the straight on his R1. I don't think there'd be any wheel spin in 5th and 6th gear, because that would be the gear that he's in. So yeah, slight instability there from Dominic Agata's R1, just underneath him. Very unusual to get weaving down the straight. Keep an eye on that.
The only person I can really remember that happening to big time before was Marco Melandri, remember, when he was on the Ducati going down that back, well, Phillip Island and the back straight in Thailand. This is Axel Bassani on the Bimotor, and he was the lead Bimotor. He was 3rd quickest this morning. His teammate Alex Lowe's in 7th place, but we're going to see some quite different results, I think, this weekend across the field in comparison with Australia. We had pit stops in Australia. It's a very unusual track, as we know, with its anti-clockwise configuration. And to avoid major tyre troubles, Pirelli brought much, much harder specification tyres to Phillip Island. We say it every year, it is not a gauge for performance across the 12-round, 36-race championship. Bassani number 47. Saw his family. His mum Jessica is definitely the parent he gets the curly hair from, because they were all at the presentation in Rimini for Bimotor Kawasaki back in January, and a lovely family they are too. His mum and dad turned up, his girlfriend, and Axel, of course, having switched from Moto Corsa Ducati to Kawasaki last year, now with the same team, but at Bimotor Kawasaki for 2025. What about Montella as well, James? Right up there this morning. He was inside the top 3 for a while and ended up 5th on this Barney Spark Ducati.
Yeah, #5 on the front of the bike and 5th in that FP1. Really impressive. You know, obviously inside the top 10 in Phillip Island in his very first race in Superbikes, so we shouldn't be that surprised. And I will correct myself, I said he was the runner-up this morning in Supersport, but Stefano Manzi nicked that off him in the last race in Jerez last year to 2nd, and he finished 3rd in the championship with Adrian Huertas, obviously victorious last season. He's gone to Moto2. Phil Maron just having a word with Toprak here. They can't be having some more problems, can they, surely? This is turning into a bit of a disastrous start for the world champion here at Portimao.
Yeah, it really, really is. If he's having this many issues time and time again, it is showing a problem. So Toprak Razgatlioglu not even managing a lap, straight back in to the pit lane. Meantime, the session continues on here as we see Michael van der Mark from the Netherlands watching on. So how this is going to work is we wait for our rider tracker to jump back into gear. It's been having numerous problems here today. Remy Gardner is fastest, 1:41.710, and that changes as well throughout. Let's just see that all the sector times are working correctly. Yes, they are. If you notice an issue with our timing tower, let us know and we'll fix it throughout. Here's Garrett Gerloff, the American on the Kawasaki for World Superbike team as well. Get in touch with us on the YouTube chat. We're live on JBMotorsports 2 and Twitch, and delayed coverage on the main channel. There's the Remy Gardner for the Yamaha, the GYTR team. Slowly up into turn number 13, 14 then. Tricks downhill, the gout corner. Should have really named it better, shouldn't I? But that's the way it goes sometimes in World Superbikes. Pushing hard, downhill, and really start closing in. Yari Montella, 1:42.159. Finished the session inside the top 5 earlier on. A really impressive session for him. Tito Rabat, keeping his eyes focused. And here's Toprak. Helmet visor down, stretching the arms out, hops on the bike, and away he goes. He missed 45 minutes of practice this morning. Thank God he's got practice 2 and practice 3 to get back in. Also, we did test here just a few weeks ago, so it should help a lot. But the first practice session, if you weren't joining us, Toprak started a lap, braking downhill in towards turn 1, went straight on, could not brake. Came back in, they adjusted it, he hopped on the bike again, pulled slightly, did a stoppie, and didn't stop. He said, no, not good. Went back in and failed to set a time and only completed 1 circuit this morning. Now he's on pit out. Let's see what he's going to achieve as we see a replay down into turn 1. New riders struggling on that first braking zone. Ike looking now at 11th, 1:41.817. Here's Scott Redding for the Ducati MGM Bonnevaux Racing Squad. 32 years old is Scott Redding. Still flirting around here, there and everywhere with the other championships. Don't know where the rider tracker is. Hopefully it'll start working at some point. So right now it's just a pretty circuit picture at the moment, as we see Michael Gosicki watching on down there in the Scott Redding camp. There's Evia Bautista just ahead, with Scott Redding just behind. We've got MotoGP coming up directly after this as well, so we're going to actually at 40 minutes past the hour, so in around about 30 minutes, I hand over to the world feed, who then in turn changes over elsewhere. So a bit of an interesting end to this session as we continue to try and close it all down. We ride on board with Alex Lowe's, who says, I remember when the bosses came to me to explain it, I thought they were going to fire me. Alex Lowe's opens up about the start of his new exciting adventure with Bitmotor in a new interview on the Superbikes website as well. Get in touch and go read it. Right, Toprak is into turn 1. And he's into turn 2, and he's into Lagos at turn 3, that's what it's called. Up the hill towards Fort Luco. And the BMW looks like it's planted, looks like it's got its mojo back. Let's see what it's like braking for the first time down into the hairpin under speed. Rear steps out, front is braking, turns in, meets the Apex 1, meets Apex 2. Yep, to me that looks like a bike that's working. What's the first sector time? He's 75 thousandths down on Nicolo Bulliger, who set the fastest at 1:40.685. So they're still sort of hanging around as we now see Toprak over into Craig Jones at turn 9. Ryan Vickers, 1:42.783, sets the faster benchmark time. I'll try and get my heater on. Oops. Lost connection there to the iPhone mirror, which is providing the driver tracker. Middle sector's looking strong there as well for Toprak. It's up by 26 thousandths. Bulliger up in the middle sector. So this is the big question. Can Toprak Razgaliolu get back in on the BMW that lost out so much time this morning. Into the last corner, drop of 7 stories, booted up towards the line, uphill literally, trying not to pull a wheelie. Toprak goes second, 1:47.35. Immediately on the pace is exactly half a second, well, half a tenth behind, and Bulliger does a 1:46.20. So there's a tenth between Bulliger and Toprak. Toprak proving that he's lost absolutely nothing. Can he close back in what he needs? There is Nicola Bulliger for the Ducati Ringal V4R. So many Ducatis in this field. People were calling it after Australia the Ducati Cup. But we've had a bit of a surprise with, we've got Bitmotor coming in, BMW now back being strong this morning with Van der Mark. And now Toprak back in it. Javier Veje, top Honda. He's in 11th, 141.372. He's a 100th back to Michael Van der Mark. Yamin Montella goes 12th as well as his lap times change. Over the top of the hill, down to Craig Jones. Bulliger's first sector time is up. Well, first sector's up by 64 thousandths. Second sector's up by 9 thousandths. Bautista, Avio Bautista of the 19th squad. Right, good in the first sector. Down 2/10 sector 2, 3/10 sector 3. He's got Redding behind him still. Toprak just behind them. Bautista 4th, Redding 5th. Toprak, Razgaliolu over the line. 1:46.37, 17 thousandths of a second behind Nicolo Bulliger. And here comes Bulliger now over the line. Is this going to be a better time already? 33 minutes to go in the session. And it's a 1:40.636. He's 16 thousandths off his own best time. So he's a thousandth of a second faster than what Toprak just did on that last lap time. There is nothing separating them at the moment. This is much, much more like it. Toprak immediately, after bike problems this morning, showing that the test really helped him. And we're back on it. It was brake problems this morning. Now we're back into the action. Javier Veje next to go across the line. Out of the last corner at turn 15. Rising uphill. There's a couple just ahead of him. Locoletti's just behind. Veje stays 11th, 8/10 down. Locoletti's is coming into the last corner. If we're going to see a differential sooner rather than later. Yeah, I was expecting something, but nothing happening. Locoletti stays in position as this strange and bizarre weekend continues on. Locoletti then into 6th on 1:41.035. Let's head back up to TT.
Which is a Japanese Honda-owned company. They've gone back to the Swedish supplier, Öhlins. There's more people with Öhlins on the grid, so there's more data. For that reason, it's generally considered to be the better option. Not because they're a better company, but there's just more data available at the moment at this point in time. There is Sasaki-san, I was just talking about him watching on. But going back to a different suspension supplier, James, I mean, that's a mammoth task, isn't it, with all the data involved? And Bulliger's about to go even quicker, by the way, but Honda have a mountain to climb.
It is, you know, each suspension company always reacts slightly different to the load on the front when you brake. Like here into turn 1, you can see all the pressure is on the front fork of an Öhlins suspension here on the factory Ducati. And when you accelerate here out the corner, the load then comes onto the rear shock of the suspension. And if a suspension unit moves slightly different in its travel and the damping that it has, it can really feel a ride or give the confidence to a rider going into the corner and exiting and mid-corner as well. It's the relationship that allows the tyre to find as much grip as possible onto the tarmac. So it's a really, really vital piece of kit it is on a motorcycle.
Good spot from Stephen Maul on X/Twitter. Toprak's bike has the rain light on again, as we spotted before. So, yeah, well done, Stephen. We spotted that one too. Surely he can't have the rain map on, he says, as James was also speculating. Of course, we know he didn't. He put in those incredible lap times. it doesn't always mean there's a problem, because if you know, the two Hondas of Vieja and Lecuona also often have their red lights switched on the back of their bike, so different electronic settings, different bikes.
Yeah, just looking at the speeds as well, just been pointed out, 319 kilometres an hour, which is just shy of 200 miles an hour, and it's our very own Scott Redding on the V4 Ducati. Well, I said there was going to be a smile from ear to ear, and I think that's just made it even wider.
And that's despite still being about 20 kilos down on combined weight, despite having lost 5 or 6 kilos because of his superb fitness over the winter, but he's still top speed despite that deficit.
When a factory Ducati's putting a bit of a hole in the air in front of you, you can get a bit of a slingshot down the straights here at Portimao.
Makes all the difference, doesn't it? Now, Nicola Budiger, red again in the first 3 sectors, but again he loses some time in that 4th and final sector. But this is a great race run going on here from Nicola Budiger. He is just hundredths and thousandths of a second in difference every time he comes through, and this is a race simulation going on now. We've got 2 20-lap races here this weekend, and of course the Super Pole race is 10 laps as always.
And Alvaro Bautista is also matching this kind of consistency. We know how strong Bautista is towards the end of the race. He was last year. Ryan Vickers here, 42.7, currently 18th, 2.1 seconds off. That's a little bit further afield than Ryan Vickers would like on his Ducati. He was a little bit pensive yesterday when I was talking to him about what the opportunity was this weekend. But fingers crossed, the British rider will find a little bit more pace in the up-and-coming laps.
Quick pause on TNT Sports. We continue on Discovery Plus.
Yep, so they'll go to an ad break as well, and we haven't got the audio commentary for the time being, so I'll just take over and run you through how things stand as well. Look at this from Nico Budiger, first sector, 24 thousandths of a second up to top rat Rascalioli, who's 2 thousandths of a second off. So the lap time starting to come through. This is a really close, really impressive session. We really are being treated. 20-lap races, followed then by a 10-lap, so we'll get about, 50 laps in total will be circulated here for the weekend's running of the World Superbikes, and I think it's pretty exciting what we're going to see. I really do, because unlike Australia, which wasn't really a push through, here we have traction, we've got time to boot, and we've got also the ability to really push through. So I'm expecting a classic weekend, and I'm hoping it's going to be a classic weekend as well. So Budiger top, 140.620. Top right, Rascalioli in second, Alex Lowe's third, Adrian Bautista's fourth, Scott Redding fifth, Andrea Loccoletti in sixth, Sam Lowe's seventh, Daniel Petrucci eighth, Andre in only ninth, and Michael van der Mark goes into 10th position. Several riders are in the pit lane. Not everybody is circulating out on the track right now. Still don't know where the live tracking has gone. It was working this morning, and now no such luck this afternoon with it. But yeah, it's only available on the app, I'm afraid. Yeah, 45 minutes advantage gone, says TNT Sports Bikes, as we return to the circuit as well with Greg and James. And this is a riding style comparison, turn 1.
Just comparing the riding styles here at Portimao, 27 minutes to go in afternoon practice here for round 2 of the World Superbike Championship in 2025. This is Alex Lowe's, first of all, on the Bimotor Kawasaki.
Yeah, I was just looking at his left hand, because he doesn't have the scooter braking system, it seems, with Alex. And then obviously top rack, 2 fingers still. And I know, I was talking to him, with that finger injury that he's got 3 screws in the middle of his 4-finger knuckle, and he hasn't got full movement in it, you know. He can't clench a fist anymore, but it's just the right angle to get over a brake lever. They've done that on purpose, you know. But he'll never get full motion, I don't think, in that forefinger on his right hand. Nicola Budiger, 2 fingers also on the brake lever, and he's got that clutch, the rear brake, look, on his left hand there, with the clutch just above it, so he's dragging a little bit of rear brake into that first corner. What that does, when you go slightly over on an angle on a motorcycle, the contact patch gets less and less and less, and because the rear tyre's wider, you've got more safety net of slowing a bike down with the rear brake, because you've got more tyre to the floor than the dragging the front brake where you can understeer. So it's a kind of not really a recent thing, you drag your foot, but it's a recent thing that teams put a lever where the clutch lever usually is, and then they only use the clutch lever now in modern times just to start, and they never touch it again. That's why they can do it.
And I'm glad you said that, because we actually filmed a feature with Nicola Budiger here yesterday, which is going out in the show over the weekend, and he actually highlights that very clutch lever Honda on the right-hand side of his Ducati.
It's quite close to his brake lever, though, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
It almost feels like if you had a crash, you could trap your fingers in between the two. Let's see what he's saying to his team.
James's Italian's better than mine.
But I need it pretty silent to be able to understand it, but that was pretty difficult. So with the gesture that he had, it was something down the straight with that hand gesture that he was talking about, whether it was good or bad. But you know, it's not too bad at the minute. He's currently first, you know, with 24 minutes to go. He's less than a tenth off top rack, but his teammate, is still nearly 3/10 faster than his teammate, so it's not going pretty badly for the Italian.
Incidentally, Budiger has a 20. Oh, hear the tyre screeching there at turn 3 from Lecuona's Honda. Budiger's point lead, though, is 26 points, and only 3 times before have we had such a large point lead at this point in the season after 3 races. The record, Carl Fogarty will be pleased, was his 33-point lead after 3 races at the start of 1995, but it really was a very strong start for Budiger in Australia, and not only was he so strong, of course, but different people were finishing second to him in those races, and that's why that lead has increased as it has.
Got a question for you at home.
Not one of these.
And for you, Greg. Can Top Rat win on a Honda?
No.
In Superbikes?
I think Toprak Razgatlioglu could win on this Honda or any other bike on this grid at the moment. That's my personal opinion. What do you think?
I think you'd be daft to bet against them.
And why do you ask that question?
Well, there could be there is a few rumours going around, obviously, and obviously there's a rumour of a possible MotoGP, but you know, Honda has been kind of talked about, but you know, every manufacturer in the Superbikes, you know, Yamaha would love him back. You know, I dread to think of how much Yamaha would pay to get Toprak back on an R1. Kawasaki would love him back. Every single manufacturer in this paddock. But you know, there must be some kind of appeal, should I say, to Toprak Razgatlioglu on being a world champion, the only world champion to do it on 3 manufacturers. Now that would be something. It's never been done before.
Yeah, and he has said to us before he wants to win this with all sorts of different manufacturers. If he stays in this paddock, he could be the first one to win it on all of the different bikes, the way things are going at the moment. I wonder if they should update the regulations and add Toprak Razgatlioglu as a super concession, because that's almost a guaranteed win, isn't it, to stick him on your bike?
It's a fair price.
Yeah.
It's a fair price to have that, to have the luxury of having this man here. That's who we're talking about, the current world champion, the 2-time world champion. First on a Yamaha a few years ago, 21. And look at that, styling it out on the rear brake as he just puts the bike in the position where the engineers can put it into the garage in the right place. And I think there'd be a massive sigh of relief inside the BMW box, because missing the full session this morning. Let's hear what he's saying.
Also inside the model. Too easy. Yeah. Did you try map 2? On the east side? I tried map 2, but very smooth.
But the good direction or not?
Same.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's a shame. It's a shame that we pulled away. We had some really good information there. They were trying 2 maps, map 1 and map 2. And then it was interesting because when Phil Martin asked him what the maps were like, then Toprak looked upwards. And upwards was the electronics engineers that were wanting that feedback, because they would have changed where the horsepower and the torque curve is on each gear. You can have as much power as you want, 100% all the way through the gearbox from 1st to 6th, or you can have a little bit less power in 1st gear, and you can have any choice of what you want. And obviously around here, you've got 1st gear corners. You've got quite a few 1st gear corners for a motorcycle track, haven't you, actually, Gray? You've got turn 3, turn 5, turn 13, so you've got 3 corners, which is quite unusual. Like in Australia, you've only got 2, so it's very, very technical track with the undulation and all the rest of it. So the electronics engineers have got a lot to do.
And it does mean, of course, with all these slow corners, some great overtaking opportunities, doesn't it? We always see excitement here down into turn 1, always see excitement down into that hairpin, the VIP hairpin in the middle of the lap at turn 5. Here's the other Turkish rider, the 21-year-old Bahattin Sofoglu, over the crest, down into turn 1. He had a very, very nasty accident here in January pre-season testing. It put him on the back foot in Australia. He's back up to full fitness now, but as we watch the Moto X Yamaha, let's turn our attention to this number 5 Barney Spine Ducati of Jari Montella. He's currently down in 9th place, but not for long, because he's on target for a top 3 here. Montella a real surprise so far this season. He's giving Petrucci on the other bike a real run for his money. He was 8th and 9th in the 2 Sunday races in Australia at round 1, and that was good news because he had a...
Yeah, look at Montella, though, up to 4th place. A surprise ahead of Bautista here. It's Ducati on top, but then he's our second fastest Ducati. Unbelievable. It's a 1:48.89 then for Yari on the 5 bike into turn 3, which is Lagos, up to turn 4 at Luco. Yeah, it's not doing too badly at the moment, but look, it's still top though. Yari Montella's first sector is a 10th up, 0.131 as you can see on your monitors. He is getting the traction. He's oh, hello, running wide, goes Garrett Gerloff into 31. But yeah, it's weird how much pace Montella's got in just what is his second weekend in World Superbikes. Xavier Bautista heads back out onto the circuit now. So Fagulu goes into 19th, 1:42.549, so impresses a little bit there on Delta. Second sector for Montella is 0.06 of a second down. Haven't got that bit right. We're with him now, coming to turn 13. As Tosland said, it's a first gear corner. Down now through Gout. Turn 14, it loops back around on itself, sort of like a triple apex. Before turn 15, you drop suddenly so far down. It's literally like when you go. Have you ever been to one of those slides in one of those kids parks where you put your hands like that and jump over the side of a very steep wall, and you feel like you fall forward a little bit, then it casually grinds you down at the exit? That's exactly what it's like at that last corner. It feels like you just go whoop straight down, and then somehow gravity picks you back up. How riders don't lose the bike there, it's unbelievable. Montella, as TNT go to another break, Montella goes up to third, 1:40.794. That was only 10 minutes ago, their last break. They really are cramming in the brakes at the moment, aren't they? But well done, Montella, up into third place, 1:47.94. He's a 10th off the pace there, as we're still trying to get our live timing driver tracker working, but as you can see, there is nothing currently enabled. So even when you click it and click the live tracking, as we can do up here, there is no live tracking available. So there must be a problem somewhere with the transponder systems. We had that this morning. Race control messages are coming through. The 14 has stopped with a problem down at turn number 1. That's Sam Lowes on the Ducati Panigale V4R. So what's happened to Sam? We'll see in a few moments if that brings out a red flag or a yellow. It's a technical problem. So he hasn't crashed, which is good news. And hopefully our TV pictures will show it in a second when TNT come back from a break. Andrea Iannone up into second position. Stunning lap time there. It's a 1:45.95. So Italian 1:24. 8:10.14 at the moment, if you want to do an Italian count. But still, great job there. Top Rack spoiling a 1-2-3 there, actually, for them. And Ducati 1-2-3 with putting the Turkish rider in third position and the BMW in there. Right, what's happened then to Sam Lowes? It came up with a stopped at turn 1. We have our TV pictures back. Someone was going across the top of the screen there as we pick up Andrea Iannone. Bulliger's on a fastest sector as well. 2/10 up in the middle sector. This is looking very spicy for Nicola Bulliger. Sean's in the chat saying, hello, Sean, how are you doing? Don't worry, we are going to be with MotoGP in around about 15 minutes time. The last 5 minutes of this session, we're going to take you to the world feed to come through. And I agree with what Sean says here. It's great to see so many familiar names from the 2010s MotoGP era in the World Superbikes grid. I agree. One reason that we decided to cover it after being at Donington last year, how great it is. And we are covering WCR as well in a few weeks' time. Bulliger over the line, 1:40.334, 10th and a half faster than his own best time. And what about Avio Bautista? Iannone, I think, where is he? He's gone second and backed out of it. Bautista stays fourth with a new personal best lap there, 1:47.06. And Scott Redding sixth on a 1:48.26, a new personal best lap for him as well. Yeah, So basically, the last 5 minutes of this session, we're going to hand over to the world feed as we prepare our main setup for MotoGP. So you won't see a difference on broadcasting point of view. Let's cross over to 10th.
And 10th for that matter at the moment.
And Ducati, technically, when there is no limits to revs, as Jason O'Halloran obviously doing a decent job on the Yamaha. It's not easy to just jump in, you know, on this electronics package that he's got. He's not used to that in BSB, let's not forget. So Jason is just going through the motions and developing and testing the parts that's required. As you can see there, Paul Denning just giving the confirmation there. We'll see, we couldn't ask for more from the media. We're talking about Jonathan Ray's recovery, and it's going to be a tough one. He had extensive damage to that left foot in Australia in that accident, so we wish Jonathan all the very best. We think he's going to be here this weekend. It'd be great to see the 6-time champ here in Portimao, but Jason's got a big job to do.
Yeah, and keep an eye on Jonathan Ray's vlogs as well on his YouTube channel. He's been showing us how he's been using the cryogenic chamber, which he's actually got in his house at the moment. Spends 2 or 3 hours a day in there. It must be so difficult to be so patient, but there's no other option. But he just can't get around properly. He's got a sort of trolley he's using which props up, so he basically bends his left foot on this trolley and it wheels him around, so at least he can go out, get some fresh air, go for a walk or whatever. But really, really difficult. And as Jonathan said in those videos, James, not just physically difficult, but the effect it's having on him mentally as well. Really difficult times at the moment for Jonathan Ray. So it'll be great that he gets a trip out here to Portugal to see everybody and to just have a change of scene more than anything.
Oh, I can't stress what the difference to your life is when you're coming here, winning races and listening to your national anthem on the podium and having a sip of champagne on a Sunday evening, to being stuck at home with your leg up, not being able to weight bear, and just recovering from an injury. There's just too much of a contrast to those two worlds, and mentally it's very, very difficult to keep motivated, not motivated, but very difficult to keep mentally healthy, should I say. And it's we wish him all the best with the recovery, but yeah, being injured
Got a
as
crash
well.
at turn 5. The 29 has gone down, and that's Andrea Iannone. Iannone apparently has crashed at turn 5. Now, are they going to bring out the red flag? That's a question that we need to ask ourselves. Let's take a look at the replay. Well, this is Sam Lowe's stop with a technical difficulty. He's pulled behind the barrier and he's cruising back in, so it's not too much of a technical error. The 29 has rejoined Andrea Iannone. That is fantastic news that we don't have to stop the session. But yeah, just a strange sort of attitude as Toprak Rascaliolu goes to the top. Well done, Toprak. It's a 1:40.089. He's 2.5 tenths of a second faster than Nicolo Bulaga. That is the statement that we were waiting for. That is the beat that to the rest of the field. And a shake of the head down there, BMW. Much, much better, much more than what they needed to do out there to prove that they are still on top after a miserable Australia. It's bouncing back now here in Portimao. 11 or 12 minutes of the session to go.
At this point in time, because this could be the very first 39 lap of the weekend. He is. He's 1/10 up in split 1. We're going to follow that progress. Iannone once again has pulled out of this particular lap as well. He's not finding it easy with the setup that he's got.
Yeah, he's just recovering, is he, from the crash. You can see the winglets broken off the left-hand side of the bike, so he's been down at turn 5. Hopefully we'll see a replay in a moment. But you see the white winglet is broken from our right, his left, look, because he's been down on that left-hand side.
Yeah, the split 2 for Toprak. Let's see what his 10th underneath his provisional
Just
fastest
about to go
lap time.
through there now. Oh yes, he's still up.
Very, very close though. Less than half a tenth it is in the second split. He'll be just coming around the top of the hill now as we're speaking, but this is, yeah, out of turn 5. This is where Alvaro Bautista crashed last year on the Ducati as well, so a similar accident. As you come out the hairpin, first gear, there's so much torque, so much horsepower, and the rear tyre is under so much pressure to find a bit of grip, and it can spit you over the handlebars as a high side. This is Toprak into the last corner though. Is this going to be the first 1:39 around this tour? He's got a bit of wheel spin out the last corner. Is that going to hinder his drive over this crest onto the start and finish? What is it going to be? 39.995.
Wow, and that is just a 1/10 of a second away from his own race lap record from here in Portugal 2 years ago, 2023, and he's still pushing on for another lap with 11 minutes to go in this session. session. If you are just joining us, he had a technical problem that kept him out of action for the whole of the morning session. Taking the positives from that, though, he does have more new tyres available now for this afternoon session. Iannone back in, scuffed left arm on his leathers, and he's not very happy about it.
No, he is not.
He said something about 15 and then... The first time was something, they went from 15 to 10, but I couldn't kind of work out. I think maybe turn 15 and turn 10 he's having problems with. So we'll keep an eye on that on the splits as well. But Top Rack is on it once again, Greg. He's not happy with 1:39. He's going to try and do 2 back-to-back when the rest of them, they're not even close at the minute.
Bearing in mind as well, he didn't get any lappery in the first session earlier on. It is just incredible. Garrett Gerloff, he's way off the pace. This is dejecting stuff, isn't it, for the Texan? He's down in 17th position here. He was so optimistic as well. That pre-season testing, and then he had the incident in Australia, technical problem in Australia. Remember, he got harpooned as well by Nagashima, the Honda test rider, taken out first lap of the Super Pole race at the hairpin. It is just not working out at all well at the moment for Gerloff and for Kawasaki, and he's the only Kawasaki on the grid, so he's got no other bikes to share data with either, just to make things a little bit more difficult. Top Rack over the line, lost some time on that lap. Just feel the braking here into turn 1. Oh, the rear wheel was off the ground again, no surprise there though.
When you can see movement on a motorcycle on a camera that's attached to the motorcycle, I can't stress to you just how much movement there actually is underneath him going into that turn 1. As we've seen with the footage, the rear wheel comes off a couple of foot off the air. Do you know, I'm trying to kind of figure out what the difference is between these completely elite riders. We're like Marc Marquez at the minute in MotoGP, you're going to see in Texas this weekend, and Toprak Razgatioglu. And I think just to simplify it, it's commitment. The commitment that they have to what they do with the craft that they have, how they apply it every single time they put a helmet on their head. It's just a bit beyond everybody else.
So how does a rider who doesn't have that level of commitment gain that level of commitment? And is it just about what you do on the bike, or is it about dialing out all of the other distractions in your life to be as focused as you possibly can on that one single thing, riding this motorbike?
And I think you might have, you know, put your finger on a bit of a point there, because it's a lot of it is culture, isn't it? The culture that Top Rack lives by is very much different to the Europeans and the Australians and Americans that the Western side that we have, and that how he applies himself to his job and the way he lives his life is very, very different religiously. No alcohol, etc., etc.
Yeah.
There is a different way of living and a different way of thinking about how you put yourself and apply yourself to your job, and it has to be an advantage. Obviously, Marc Marquez is Spanish, but so, you know, he's just a freak of nature with so much natural talent that what he does on a motorcycle I have never seen before, but on a MotoGP bike, that is. But on a super bike, I've never seen someone be so committed to the job, and I doff my cap to him every time I watch him. He's so exciting to watch.
I'll never forget, James, being in a press conference for the Super Prestigio dirt track event they were doing in the Palau Sant Jordi Stadium, the indoor stadium in Barcelona, for a few years. It was about 2015. And Marc Marquez had moved to Andorra at the time. He got slated by certain factions of the Spanish press who said he's only going there for tax reasons and all the rest of it. And he broke down in tears in this press conference. And he said, all I want to do is ride my motorbike. And he meant it as well. Those tears came from the heart more than from his eyes, because all he knows is riding motorbikes and winning.
Yeah, we're not financial experts. You know, the advice that we get as riders to go places to save some tax and to earn enough money to sustain yourself once you retire as a professional sportsman, because you're a long time retired as a sportsman, so you have to make it while it shines. And there's only good money in this game right at the top, in Superbike, in MotoGP, in any championship now. It drops off dramatically, and to earn a living, to sustain yourself after you finish your racing career is not easy at all. So, and you know, it's the advice that you get, and you can only follow it at the time and follow your heart at the time, can't you? But Nicola Bulliger now starts his flying lap, currently second. Is this the time now where he moves from the 40s to the 39s?
Okay, let's find out. He's got the right-hand kink at turn 2, straight into 3, often a scene for first lap incidents. Remember Xavi Forest there when he harpooned Eugene Lavati's Aprilia, which had started on pole position in 2018. That's one of the most important corners on the track there, turn 4, because it leads you into this relatively long straight, down into 5. They get up to 5th gear, as James was saying earlier on, before throwing the anchor out for the big stop at the hairpin into turn 5. Now we cut to Petrucci coming out of turn 15 and onto the start-finish straight. Right behind him is Tito Rabat. It should be up in the top 5. Yes, it is. 5th position it is then for the Barney Spark Ducati. So he's just back in front of his teammates, Petrucci and Montella, 5th and 6th, but separated by just 0.03 of a second. Remember, he's 4th in the championship, and he's got a big attack this year as well, coming from the likes of Redding and Iannone. Iannone is ahead of Petrucci at the moment, not just in the Riders' Championship, but for the lead of the Independents' Championship, which Petrucci won last year.
And Petrucci, he had 2 podiums here last year as well, and he was right up there. He got the whole shot in that in the Super Bowl race, I think it was, and very, very confident.
He did indeed. So we are gearing up for the start of the MotoGP. So we are going to hand over, ready to go with the World Feed broadcasters in a few moments' time when they actually come back, because apparently we've lost them again, which is not the best news possible, to be told, that they've disappeared. They have indeed. Okay, great. So the World Feed that we desperately needed for the last few minutes has disappeared. Back to TNT for a second.
To 3rd position, that's Oda Batters, Brown, Phil Marin, Sean Muir. Oda getting very excited there as you see his Van der Mark move up into 3rd position, and it was a slipstream again. He had a slipstream from Vierge, didn't he, earlier on today in free practice 1, and this time it was from the GRT bike of Remy Gardner.
Okay, time's coming through. Let's pass over now, ready to go. And those on Twitch will stay with you.
At 1 lap speed, and that's really important for him and for BMW, because we know how well he works during a Super Bowl session with Toprak. He'll tow Toprak around for 1 lap, Toprak will tow him around on the next stint, and they're able to give themselves the chance of qualifying well. Van der Mark said coming into this weekend he felt that there was a big step forward made by the bike and the team during the course of the Portimao test, and he wants to show what he can do.
So, free practice 2, entering its final moments now, and this will be the last stint for each rider, of course. Toprak Razgatlioglu, the only rider into the 139s. Nicolo Bulliga, 2nd as things stand.
And you can see for Bulliga on this lap, he's had a personal best in Sector 1. We'll catch up with him in a couple of moments' time. He wants to try and show he's got that same 1 lap speed as Toprak. The problem for him is, though, Toprak's pace in this stint really is impressive. He's just halfway through his lap now as well, so we'll see what kind of speed he's got on lap 7 of this stint, or lap 8 of this stint, but he's really shown that he's got that consistency. Bulliga needs to just get that bit of a confidence that he's got the speed to go with Toprak, but he's lost the lap halfway through as well. He's down by 1/10 of a second, down by 3/10 of a second now at the end of the lap as well, as Alvaro Bautista makes his way around the long turn 15 to try and improve his time. But again, for Bautista, the lap time going away in the second half of the lap. A lot of the times here in Portimao, that can come down to the wind as well. The wind picks up as the day progresses. We're coming up to 4 o'clock local time now. This is typically whenever the wind is starting to get a lot stronger, so maybe that's a bit of a factor up at the top of the hill at the end of the lap.
Just want to take the opportunity to give some credit to Jari Montella. A couple of new personal bests in a row. Last time around, a 1 minute 40.788 for Jari Montella. So he's less than 1/10 behind much more experienced teammate Danilo Petrucci. And Montella showing well early here in Portimao.
Yeah, we know that the Barney team put together a really good package, and Montella's been able to show here in Portimao in the past on a super sport bike that he's good around this track like he is at Phillip Island, and he's showing once again just how strong overall that Ducati package is. You can see here for Sam Lowe's in the number 14 machine back out on track. Liam gave a quick update as well, just through to myself and Alex. It was an electrical issue for Lowe's, and you can see they've been able to get that problem solved, but he's got a lot of confidence in that front end. You can see just how he's braking on the angle there as well, down in towards turn 13, and personal best lap on the way for Lowe's.
Yes, it was a bit of a moment again over the crest of the hill in towards turn 9, and we saw a replay earlier on of Sam Lowe's where he was all loose and out of shape, but on this occasion keeps it very much under control. good to see Sam back out after his technical problems, as you said there earlier on in the session. 1.5 minutes to go, so he'll get in another lap after this one. That's good enough for P10.
Just to compare Sam as well to Bulaga, the fastest Ducati out there, he's matching him for speed in Sector 2 and Sector 4, but giving up that 0.3 of a second in Sector 1 and Sector 3. So they're the areas where the Mark VDS team will try and find some improvement for him.
Nicola Bulaga then off the final turn, his latest lap, 1 minute 40.342. So there's consistency to that pace. Remember, his fastest time is a 140.294. And unfortunately for him, there's consistency for Toprak of laps that have been faster than his best. Slackened off now, Toprak, at this stage of the session, but again, Toprak's been the man to beat in FP2.
Yeah, and for Razgadioglu down into the 41s last time around, it was a mid-40 the previous time. Obviously for Razgadioglu, you're trying to use each lap to gain as much information as possible. Bulaga's just going to bail on this down to turn 5, so that's his session done. But for Razgadioglu, he was able to show everyone, I'm the man to beat here this weekend with that ultimate speed that he has. It backed up what we saw in the test.
Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, it's not a surprise, is it, that we end Friday with Toprak a few tenths of a second faster than Nicola Bulaga. He was 4 tenths ahead in the test at the end. So it's more or less in keeping with what we were anticipating. But I think the manner of it's been particularly impressive for Toprak, given all that misrunning in FP1, and rival Bulaga's not been able to capitalise as he rejoins the circuit following his venture through the car track at turn 5. He's not able to complete this lap at full speed, of course. Checkered flag has fallen in FP2, so riders just coming through to complete their final laps. Sam Lowes with an opportunity to make a big improvement here, although he loses a bit of ground in the final sector this time around to 140.860, so narrowly pips Alex Lowes, who we just saw cross the line moments earlier. Elsewhere around the lap, Michael van der Mark on a good lap. There's a chance that he might improve, currently sitting in P3.
Same issue again for Sam, it looks like they're at the end of the lap as well. So that's something for the Mark VDS team and Ducati to diagnose now overnight.
Yeah, better that it happens after the checkered flag, of course, but the team has plenty of diagnosis and work to do. As we see Toprak, Razgatlioglu and Michael van der Mark off the final turn, riding together. That's why van der Mark's been able to put in such a strong effort on this, his final lap. It's a 1 minute 40.663. It's over a tenth of a second down on his previous best in this session. But for Michael van der Mark, riding with Razgatlioglu, as we've seen at times in Superpole sessions as well.
Yeah, and for van der Mark there, that stint at the end of the session really was pretty strong. We saw him in the mid-40s on his first flying lap and able to get himself up into third fastest on the combined times. And then as the stint progressed, still able to lap in the mid-40s by the end of it.
Yes, as we see Michael van der Mark doing a little bit of a top rack, mini top rack, as they stop now to do their practice start. As always, we make our way through the 3-2-1. Michael van der Mark third place with a 1 minute 40.506, half a second down on top spot. Top rack Razgatlioglu, his teammate. This is P2, Nicola Bulaga, second place. A reasonable result, but I think he would have expected FP2 to yield a little bit more when he and Razgatlioglu were matching one another through the first stint. Ultimately, Toprak then finding an extra step in the second stint later on, and this is what Toprak does, of course, playing to the gallery as ever here in Portimao. That's why he's the character that he is. But it's P1 for Toprak, and well, we're back where we left after the test, aren't we? With Toprak on top with a few tenths of a second margin over Nicola Bulaga, and looking the man to beat.
And Toprak only 0.3 of a second off the outright lap record here as well. So you would expect to see that fall tomorrow, as Jonathan Ray's held that for 2.5 years from his time in the Kawasaki, and you'd think that for Toprak, the target would be to make sure you're in those mid-39s during the course of the Superpole session.
As Toprak makes his way through in FP2. Back towards pit lane. It's a 1 minute 39.995. Only rider to make it into 1 minute 39s today. Just an interesting marker, but certainly when we get underway with Superpole tomorrow, you'd expect Toprak to be adding to that whole tally.
Yeah, Toprak clearly just laying down the pace.
Okay, it looks like we might have lost the traction there from the world feed. But that is the end of the second practice session. We'll be back tomorrow, all ready to go for what will be free practice 3, then straight into Super Pole. Thanks for your company out here. It is Top Rat Razgolioli who is fastest. If you're watching now on JB Motorsports 2 live, you're going to be redirected to the MotoGP first practice session where it is very, very wet. Thanks for your company. Here from the circuit of the Americas, we now head to from the sunshine of Portimao for MotoGP. But Top Rack tops Friday after a tricky start. We'll see you then.